Good afternoon. Welcome back to Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the Parent Edition. If you're looking at this space, it's another Tuesday. We're a little bit past two because we had some technical difficulties. However, I have another parent who is going to share her devotion to bringing another responsible adult into this world. If you would please take a deep breath and exhale, we'll be right back.
Cozy Stone is a multi-talented comedian extraordinaire who has a real lust for life. She also combines humor and motivation, where she is known as a humorvational speaker. Her youthful ways and positive light make her a beacon for those of all ages. Cozy has lived a remarkable life that has paved the way for so many. She had the longest running open mic venue of 11 years at Tommy Rockers in Vegas, called Cozy's Comedy Corner, through which she introduced many up-and-coming comedians. Before going into comedy, she was one of the first female personal trainers and one of the top fitness trainers in the world. She has trained many greats such as Billie Jean King, Roberta Flack, Andrew Young, Ed Bradley, CCH Pounder, Al Pacino, and Earl Monroe. As a former competitive bodybuilder, she also owned a bodybuilding gym for women over 40 in Los Angeles for several years. She has worked in top positions for HBO, Playboy, and Tony Robbins. She also enjoys volunteer work, dedicating time to the New York Foundling Hospital and babies with AIDS. Cozy Stone has a message that shouldn't be missed.
Okay, bring me my wonderful parent for the day. Welcome to the studio, Miss Cathey Armillas. How are you today?
I am awesome. Thank you, Cozy. How are you?
You're wonderful and you're looking great and you're sounding great, and let's hope this sticks.
Yes.
Folks, before we get started today, I always like to tell the audience this show's concept was simply to showcase parents who took their job serious, who understood all of what it takes to create a responsible adult. I like those words. We know there's no such thing as a perfect parent. Yes, there are a lot of books on the shelf, but they at any given time they do not go along with how to raise that particular child. Uh, just as importantly, I like to say the show has nothing to do with parent shaming. If anything, my hope is that this show will help other parents with some of the challenges that they're having bringing kids into this world or raising children. So, Cathey, before we get started, I'd like to give the audience a background, and I'll tie it in together of where your parents came from that got you the way you are to you're bringing your kids because it's all uh, works in together. So, where in fact were your parents born and raised, and how old were they when they gave birth to you?
Yeah, Cozy, this is awesome. First of all, a show where you're not parent shaming. I think a lot of parents, such as myself, and we'll get into my story, I think have a hard time when you think you didn't do everything perfect and you wish you could do things better. And so my parents, they met when my mom was young. She was still in high school. They met in Chicago, Illinois. My mom's side of the family had immigrated from Italy, so my mom was second generation here in the United States, and my dad had a firm foundation in the Chicago area with a lot of family already living in and around Chicago. And it was kind of an interesting, like, if you know my two sides of the family, it was like mixing two very different families together. And my parents decided to move away from all of the family chaos and they moved us to the West Coast. We moved to LA when I was young, and we kind of started our own new roots out there. So my mom, she was 18 when she got pregnant with me. She was 19 when she had me. My dad was a little bit older, but they had me young. And I was the firstborn of three kids that they had.
Okay. Um, so you were born in Chicago, but raised in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And again, you just said it. So when you left LA, I mean left Chicago, you left the I'm trying to come up with the word, the foundation,
Yes.
the family, there are other family that's yeah,
Yeah.
clan. What I'm trying. Were there other family members in LA to help support your parents? No. Okay. All right.
0. So that was the challenge I think my parents probably felt when they first got us there. We didn't know. So, funny story, my dad and mom decided that they were gonna go on a vacation. They went to this was probably when I was really little. They went to Southern California, and when my mom got back to Chicago, she was like, "I really, really, really wanna move there. Lights, Hollywood, beautiful
Mhm.
beaches, sunny weather." But really to when she got there and they got there, life was much different. I mean, we were in our house maybe 1 month, we got robbed, old school robbing where, like, somebody, like, pulls up to the back of your alley and they have a truck and there's, like, 3 people and you come home and your entire house is upside down and they've stolen TVs and big appliances and whatnot, things that probably wouldn't get any money nowadays, but it was kind of a traumatic beginning to life in Los Angeles. And then my parents would go on to get divorced pretty soon after that. A lot of stressors. I think looking back, there was moving to California was a big stressor on the family unit.
Now, your mom was 18. How old was your dad?
My dad was, he's a couple of years older. He's probably 20, 21.
All right. So we're still talking about kids having kids.
Yeah, babies having
Right? And
babies for
that's
sure.
again, that's one of the things that we want to tie in. How
Yeah.
old were you when you had your first child?
I was the same as my mom. I was 18 when I got pregnant. I was 19 when I had my daughter.
Okay. And how old was your partner?
A year older than me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, and I'll try this out. Yeah, it's easier
Yep.
to
It was
date, right? It's okay. Now, how long did you know your partner when you got pregnant with him?
Yeah, it was probably a year and a half. We connected right as kind of almost same scenario as my mom. I met him. I was living in the LA area. He was from Oregon and he had come down to California to go to college and I met him and we were probably together for a year and a half or so
Okay.
before I got pregnant.
So even as a young lady, him being a young man, what were some of his qualities once you found out you were pregnant and you were going to have his kid? What was it? Was there anything? Was it his beauty, his brawn, his brain? What did he bring to the table, Cathey?
The hindsight's always 2020, right?
Yes, yes.
I just I believe that when you're really, really young, this is one thing that I would advocate for, people having kids when they're young. And it's not to say that there's any path that is the correct path, maybe for another two human beings or two people. Starting young is fine. Maybe they have a basis of their families knew each other, they grew up together. I think we were two people at a time that knew each other, that maybe were crossing paths right in that moment. And everything in that moment seemed to fit well together, but then it quickly started diverging.
So
So,
here's the female question, Cathey.
yeah,
Was he cute?
he was definitely cute. I mean, it was like there was a whole lot of cuteness going on back then for sure.
Uh-huh. Cute will get us every time, and it doesn't matter how old we are. But
Yeah.
when we're young and immature, the first thing when we meet, teenagers, we meet a guy, when we tell our girlfriends, "Oh, he's so cute.
Ooh, he's so cute.
He's so
Now when
cute."
we're older, we're like, but is he honest? Is he kind? Is he loving? Is he love family?
Is he
Like,
smart? That's
is he
right.
smart? Can we have intelligent conversations?
So here you are, this young teenager, or young cis teenager, having a kid with a teenager. You get the news. So did you get it from the doctor, or did you do one of those home pregnancy tests?
A home pregnancy
Did you?
test.
Yes, you have to remember to ask that question according to who I'm talking to, because my generation, we didn't have home pregnancy tests. So you
Yeah.
get the home pregnancy tests. You're young, you know what you don't know, but here's the question: was it fear or fantasy that you're getting ready to be a mom?
Oh, it was a whole bag of mixed emotions. I mean, I would say there's that initial shock of like, the reason I'm taking a pregnancy test is because I thought I might be pregnant, right? And then there's the confirmation. Oh, yep, I'm pregnant.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, like 20 years of your life flashes through your head and like, 30 seconds, like, wow, how does this whole thing play out?
Wow.
And, I was on a different path. I probably would have made it to the Olympics at some point. I was Olympic bound playing, at a high level softball. And I think I had other plans that were going in my life. So then it definitely put me at a crossroad at the same time. So that gave me a lot of fear. And I just had a lot of contemplating to do. And in hindsight, when I look back, I think that I grew up in a day. I mean, I grew up overnight. I
At any point were you two together to raise the kid, or were you on your own?
Well, we were together and we tried to make it work because it really wasn't that great of a relationship. Honestly, had I not got pregnant, it probably wouldn't have continued too much longer. I ended up getting pregnant with my second child. And so we had two kids. That's all I've had is two kids.
Okay.
But it was already like really bad by then. And so not long after my son was born, we split up, and then I was single mom in it for a while.
And so at any point did you, other than being together for that short period of time, at any point did you co-parent?
We didn't really. The relationship was just not good. Once we separated, I mean, he completely disconnected from
Right.
this
It was
family
all,
unit. Yeah.
it was all on you. So did you have what kind of support? Did you have any support to help you with these two kids at a young age?
Nope, the financial support was also went along with the it went along with everything else. So I didn't have any financial support coming from, their parent. And I was just young. I hadn't
Mhm.
entered the workforce yet, hadn't
Wow.
went to college, hadn't
Wow.
lived out any of my dreams. And so it was the roughest time in my life for sure, but it was also the most amazing and rewarding. Like being a mom, I really leaned into that role. When I saw my daughter's face when she was born, I'll never forget it. Like we were at the hospital and they pulled her out, and then they're laying this baby on your stomach, and it's really slimy, and you're like, wow, that's an interesting look. Are you supposed to do that? Like, there's this baby here, and she just looked up at me, and I just fell in love as a mom instantly. Like I just fell in love with her, and I don't know, it's like it's one of those things you just knew. It's like we're going to figure it out.
Okay. Well, so what I'm hearing from that is, again, not planned, it doesn't matter. Motherhood sometimes just falls into place. I mean,
Mhm.
right? There are women who plan, that have married, husbands, blah, 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 and they still did not have that mothering instinct. So that's the things I'm learning as I'm doing this show and listening to all of you. So let's go again. You're pregnant, you're having your kid. While you're pregnant, what were three things that you considered before giving birth?
Ooh,
Now,
okay.
there's 10 of them, but if you can think of the top three off the top three.
Well, I thought of 2 immediately.
Okay.
So, one of them was at that point, because of some of the other things going on that I was playing at a, really high level competitive sports, I thought about the health immediately. I had never, so anybody who knows me knows this weird fact about me. I've never had a sip of alcohol in my life. I've never taken any drugs. I've never smoked any cigarettes. So there wasn't anything outwardly that I was doing that was unhealthy per se. I stopped eating sugar when I was 17. I became a vegetarian. The first thing I thought of is like, oh, I have this baby growing in my stomach. I better be 100% clean eating. I need to be healthy. I mean, it was like, that thought overtook me. I don't know if it was just hormones, but it really like, I have to be very, 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 very healthy. The second thing was I wanted to create a space. I ended up growing up after my parents split up. My dad remarried. We had 4 step siblings, and then my 3, so me, my sister, and my brother, and there was like 7 of us, and then the parents 9. So many times I was going back and forth between like a home that never really felt like a home because there was always chaos and nobody ever had their own private space. And so the second thing that really came to my mind is I wanted to create a beautiful home for her, a space. It didn't have to be big or anything. But I wanted her to have her own little space. So I worked really hard to create her room and give her that environment. And, the third thing, of course, should have been the first thing that hit my mind, but it was as I got closer and closer to delivering her, I did really think about, I wanted her to have love in her life, and I didn't want her to experience some of the things I had when I was younger. And so I had this extreme need for wanting her life to be a lot better than my life base. And, at this point in my life as an adult, I'm super grateful for everything I went through. So no issues with that. But I just wanted to give her a better start.
But that's a lot of maturity for an 18-year-old. With all of those things that you just said, your health, changing your eating habits, already being clean as an athlete anyway, observing where you were, not wanting her to have that same, you wanted peace in her life. The love, we all think we're going to love, or I would think every parent thinks they're going to love, but it doesn't naturally come. So that's pretty. Now, where were you living? Were you in your mom's home? Because you were saying you were going back and forth. Where were you and your baby living?
No, so me and the father had gotten, we moved up to Oregon from Southern California.
Wow.
And we got a little place in Oregon. But here's how much my family is family. My mom immediately moved after. So she moved at some point up to Oregon, and then my brother and sister ended up following. So the early childhood years of both of my kids, they got to see a lot. My mom helped out a lot. When we split up, I ended up moving in with my mom for a little while, and then I had my own place. And so there was a lot of kind of moving around, but I started with no family. And by the time my daughter was born, I ended up with quite a few family members around, which was nice.
And that's the village.
Yeah.
That's
sure.
That's the village. That's one of the questions. What kind of support system was in place? It fell into place, because I'm listening to her and saying, well, she has to live somewhere. Somebody had to have helped her out. And so we're going to go backwards here. Your parents had you, your mom had you as a teenager. You repeated the process. You had your daughters as a teenager with a cute boy. But as your mom figured it out, whether her dad stayed together or not, she raised you, because we're looking at who you are today. You in turn took the bull by the horn and said, I'm going to do all the things that I know, even as an 18-year-old. That the maturity level that you've just demonstrated is impressive. It's impressive. I don't know if our teenagers are as mature today, but what do I know? Again, I don't have children. So you started off saying, I've created this life, and I'm going to do my best to give it the best life that I can. So I'd like to ask the question, as you were being raised, and it doesn't matter, again, how old your mom was, in each of our ears, each and every one of us, our parents at some point are nags. And they keep saying things to us that we say, I heard you, I heard you, I heard you. Can you think of one or two things that your mom kept saying to you and you said, Lord, have mercy, I heard you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is truth, Cozy, right? It's facts. I even find myself now as a mom of kids being in their late 20s. And then, I actually have 4 grandkids too. So we can talk about that, the next generation. But I can even feel it when it's happening to me. I'm like, am I being a nag right now? Like, is this happening? My mom loves family so much. Like, anything I'm about to say, I need to preface it with the fact that my mom, even when I was growing up, bent over backwards, like starved herself to get money to do whatever she could for us. Like, she really, really did. But my mom is also very high energy, anxious person. And so I can't really name anything specific, because it was kind of like everything.
Okay, it'll come. I have last week's the last week guest. My last week guest, I asked this question, and initially she couldn't come up with it, but as we kept talking, so
It
no
came
worries.
out. I could see that.
Yeah.
It came out. It came out.
Now we're going to get into the questions that you chose. So your first question was, what are 3 things you wish you knew before becoming a parent? That's a great
Mm,
question.
yeah. I love that question so much.
Mhm.
Now that I'm a an adult, well into adulthood, I really wish I understood the basis for what kids needed in life. That they needed experiences, that they needed exposure, that they needed love and support, like real love and support. Because I feel like when you're young and you're trying to raise kids, you get sucked into this, like, I gotta like provide physically, so I gotta go to work and I gotta just 20 minutes with a kid changes everything. Just one-on-one time. I hear you, I see you, I understand you, I love you. I would say though, really one of the biggest ones, and I do this with my grandkids now, which I love. I mean, it's the awesome thing of being a nana. That's what I am, as the nana, right? Is
Mhm.
that I'm looking out for their experiences in life. I'm trying to open them. And we have this thing that we call Culture Day, where we will go and study. And the culture can be another actual culture of, like, like for instance, one day we took the kids to the Japanese garden, and then we went to a Japanese restaurant, and we listened to Japanese music, and we looked at Japanese art. And so we were kind of looking at the whole Japanese culture. But sometimes it could just be the culture of, like, let's look at the culture of skateboarders and let's go to a skateboarding park or whatever. And so we just call it Culture Day. And these are some of the things I just didn't think of or know or have time when I was young. I was just trying to pull my head above water.
Mhm.
But I would say these experiences, I would say the love and the connection, the real, like, and real spending time. I think those are really important, 3 really important things that I wish I had more space for it.
That's okay, because now you're sharing it. You're paying it forward,
Yeah.
right? And again, the concept of this show is to share with parents, young and old alike, that can benefit from your experience and your know-how. Your next question that you chose is, what would you say makes a good parent?
Mm,
Mm,
so many things, but I think it would really boil down to this, Cozy. I think that you have to understand that a relationship with your child is a long one. The longevity of this relationship and what it will go through over time, you're really looking for the longevity of it. So there's going to be periods with your child where things won't be great, or it'll be difficult, or it'll be tough. And I think to be a really great parent, you have to buy into the whole thing. You're signing up for a lifetime of everything. And that really, to me in my mind, when I think about it, that covers it so well. I mean, I think about my son right now, where, like, there's certain ways that he needs me, and I show up for him, even though he's an awesome functioning adult and does fine. And that's my job still. As long as I'm on this earth, my job is to be there for him however he needs me. So that I know it's like 30,000-foot view, because you could get into the weeds on that, but that's what I think.
it's okay. This is your interview, and I want to know what you think. Remember, you've already produced these wonderful children, so you know what works for you. And that's all that's important. But again, I'm going to keep saying it. What works for you could possibly help someone else that's listening and someone else who just doesn't know better. I always end this show with, when you know better, you do better. That's what this entire 30 minutes is for. Your next question that you chose is, and you can use children, I put child, things you taught your child. And in parentheses, I put respect, thankfulness, honesty. So I think what I'm asking for is character and morals.
Hmm. Yep. Okay. So this one starts from my dad. My dad one time caught me in some kind of lie. Uh, It was a very little lie. I'm sure it was like, nope, I didn't leave that light on. Nope, I didn't eat the ice cream out of the freezer, that you can clearly see that I ate the ice cream out of the freezer. And he gave me a 45-minute lecture that felt like it was 7 hours about, lying and why, he started at level 1, which was like, if you lie, you know, then you're gonna have to tell another lie to cover up the lie, and then you have to tell another lie to cover up that lie, and then pretty soon you can't keep track of all the lies, and then you know what happens? Then you get really good at juggling lies, and then you become a compulsive liar, and you just lie on compulsion. You don't even need to lie. You just lie because. And then if you're a compulsive liar, you know what happens after that? Then you just start to become a pathological liar, because now you've lied so much that you start actually believing your lies. I still to this day can tell you that the whole gist of I just summarized what that 45-minute lecture that my dad gave me. And it really hit me and impacted me in a way. And so one time I caught my daughter in a lie. I didn't give her the whole lecture.
Right.
I mean, it probably did over time, gave her the whole lecture, but I didn't do it in a big chunk. I ended up making her write a paper. I had made her write like an essay on why it's important to not lie. And then I made her research and do a paper on what integrity was about. What does integrity mean? Because that's really the quality that you're looking for, is integrity. And so I kind of have a little reputation in my family of that, of like being like, I'm the integrity, like police or master or whatever you want to call it. Like I'm the one that's like, so
You're the example.
and an example of such, this is something that's important to me in my life, and I practice it for sure. So yeah, that was something that my daughter had to endure.
Okay, so there's that answer to the question I asked earlier. What was a mantra or something that your parents said to you that you repeated to your kid? And it always comes out down through. There it is. There it is. That's exactly correct. That's what he said in your head. And your daughter one day will make her daughter, if she hasn't already, write a paper on lying and integrity. Because those are the things, again, we heard them. I usually call it yang, 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 yang. But we grow up to sound like our parents. We grow up when we get parents that made a difference in our lives. We pretty much mimic their behavior, whether we like it or not. We become our parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So your next question is, share a panic moment and how you overcame it.
Oh, yeah. I hope no other parents have experienced this, but if you have, you'll know the sheer panic that this was. One time I was on the phone, when we used to have the regular phones that were stuck into the wall. And so I could only go so far with the phone. I couldn't take the phone outside. I had to go as far as the cord would go. And my daughter, she was riding around on her big wheel, and she was right in front of the house where I could see her. And I'm on the phone and I'm talking, and all of a sudden I don't hear the noise. Big wheels, those big plastic wheels. So you're like hearing this, like, you hear this like loud noise. And the first clue was I couldn't hear that anymore. And so then I'm trying to have a conversation with whoever was on the phone, and I'm trying to have a conversation with the person on the phone, and I'm trying to figure out where she is. And I'm starting to feel that like heat that's going down your face, and your heart starts pounding. And all of a sudden I'm like, I got to go. Click. And I couldn't find her, Cozy, for what felt like forever. But what she had decided to do was, there was this big hill on like a main street. So she got out to kind of the main street, and it's heading towards like a big highway. I mean, it's really far up this hill. And she's about halfway up this hill heading towards the freeway entrance. And so I'm like running up the hill, and I'm freaking out. And I just had this moment, and it was only maybe 5 minutes total, but I had this moment with her where I understood what it felt like to maybe like lose a child, or for a child to go missing. And ultimately I found her and everything was fine and she was okay. And she had no idea why I was as panicked as I was. But yeah, that was a panic moment.
Yeah. And most of the time, when I mean, it was question those of you who answer it, it's having to pay attention, right?
Yeah.
You were there was something you didn't hear, and more importantly, you were so in tune. And I remember those big wheels and how much noise. But you're a parent. If they're choking, if they're sneezing too much, if they're quiet, you
Yeah.
know,
The
every
quiet is the scary. That's the scary stuff.
that's the most one when you don't hear anything at all. You know, they're usually getting in trouble, but yeah. And then of course, after you brought her home, you explain to her, please don't go up that hill anymore.
Well, and not to out myself as a terrible parent here, but I later, years later, would end up in Barcelona and I had my daughter and my son. And, we were at La Ramblas. It's a big street and there's a lot of vendors and whatnot. And all of a sudden, I was holding both of their hands. And all of a sudden, I wasn't holding my son's hand anymore. I'm like looking at my empty hand and I'm like, what happened to my son? And I look up and he ends up being right in front of me. He just stepped away from me for a second and I will never forget this, Cozy, funniest thing in my life. I mean, this was like a split second. We just kind of like let go of hands for a second. And we were at a light. We were going to cross the light. And there was another couple that was walking across the street. And without even looking up, he put his hand up and he started holding this other lady's hand.
Thinking he had your hand.
Oh, and to see the look on his face when he looked up and was like, who are you? It was pretty priceless. But
and again, the moral to that story is he knew not to cross the street without holding an adult's hand.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? It wasn't your hand, but he was reaching for your hand. These things are so important. They're not minute details. I saw a kid one time. I was on my way home. I was living in LA. Young man, little boy was with his brother. And I think the light stopped and the little boy put his foot off the curb. Maybe he was 4 or 5. Brother was maybe 9 or 10. And I pulled over and I said, little boy, come here. Come. No, I turned. And I did. And went across the street. I was going this way and I turned and I said, come here. Come here. I said, is that your little brother? He said, yes. Do you love him? He said, yes. Did your mother put you in charge of him? Are you responsible for getting him back home? Don't you ever, ever, ever let him step off the sidewalk without you holding his hand and both of you look both ways. I just went into a heart attack.
Woo!
If I didn't pay attention, what could have happened to your brother? I had another kid one time. The light was changing and he didn't pay attention and he hit the hood of my car. I said to him, come here. Because God forbid I hit him because he's being irresponsible. I have to live with that for the rest of my life. So yes, I did. I pulled him over. Come here. Come here. So good for you. All right. And then our last question is, you picked great question. Everybody picks great questions. I shouldn't say that. I like your questions. I like all the questions. They're my questions. What makes you happy as a parent?
Yeah. Well, that's still in the works, right? But there's been so many moments.
What has made you happy as a parent?
Happiest. Okay, here's the one. Here's one. So you know what I do for a living. I'm a professional speaker. I coach other people on how to speak and storytell, coach people to give TED Talks, blah, blah, blah. My kids, unfortunately, grew up with me, taking them to things like Toastmasters. And I even created a Toastmasters club for kids that's still running to this day called Future Stars, because I wanted my kids to learn the art of public speaking and to be confident and to know how to communicate as they grew up. They hated it. And if I'm not being really clear on how much they hated it, I am so sorry. But I mean, they despised it. They would rather do anything other than do that. And both kids independently have come to me at different times and said, Mom, I'm so grateful that you forced me to do that. And I know a lot of parents, this is probably a connection point with a lot of parents where your kid kicks and screams and they fight you and they hate it. And then later on, they're like super grateful for it. And you have to endure a lot when they're younger. But it makes you so happy when you're like, yeah, I did that because I loved you. Like that was a lot of time out of my life that I did that with you. And to have you complaining all the time sucked. It just really sucked. So, of course, I didn't tell them any of that. When they tell you, you just say, oh, thank you. I'm so happy to hear that. I would say that those are some very happy moments that I have actually experienced with both of my kids at different points in their life.
Interesting. They had a list on LinkedIn today. I think it was 20 things to be successful, or tips or things you should have. And one of them was learning to speak in front of a large audience,
Yeah.
which I laughed because, of course, I don't have a problem speaking in front of any kind of audience.
You're like, what? What does that even mean?
Well, I wasn't taught this. I just think my fearlessness says, get out there, and they don't know what you don't know. This is what I tell people. But what that story says, and everything you said today, is sticking to it, wanting the best for your child. They're children, people. Children don't know what they don't know. What is the expression? Youth is wasted on youth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's our job. That's our job, as my job, even as a non-parent, as an adult, to pull that little boy over and threaten his life. Do not threaten everybody.
I love the little. I could
yeah.
see you, Cozy. I could see you pulling your car over and being like, "Hey,
this finger has lots of use, right?
Get over here.
Get here." It's clenching my teeth. I was
no.
Yes, but a parent's job is it's so many aspects that goes with it. But the biggest thing is the stick-to-itiveness. You knew better. Again, I applaud you at 18 years old, the maturity level. The fact that your mother instincts kicked in. Again, everybody's mother's instinct don't kick in. Most of the people I've had on here so far, they kicked in. I had one got pregnant 15 and decided he stay home, she go to school. And today she is all of that. Her kids are very successful. It's not, they say aging is not for the weak. Raising children is not for the faint of heart. It is a lifetime commitment. As you said, they could be 30, 40 years old. You're still going to worry. I was a little upset when I moved to LA. I was 28. And one day, I think my sister said something to me about my mother worrying about me. I don't even want to tell you how mad I got. I actually got it took me years to put that together. And I'm not kidding. I just had no idea why the heck she's worrying about me when I've just moved 3,000 miles, 3,000 miles across the river, across the waters, knowing nobody, okay, and starting a new life because I knew I could. It did not dawn on me that no matter how independent you are, Cozy, and how strong and fearless you are, that is your mother. That is that's her job. I didn't think she needed to worry about me anymore. And now I get it. I talk to all of you. And the more I talk to you, the more I'm very glad I didn't do it. I've never had any regrets. As you know, I just turned 70 last Wednesday. Not one day in my life ever said, oh God, I wish I'd had a kid. No.
And then you're the person out here with a parenting show. I love that. That's what I love about you, Cozy. I
have the empathy, I have the love, I have the caring, I have the concern. My mom said, when I decided to not be able anymore, and she says, I cannot believe my child, who would be one of the best mothers, doesn't want to be a parent. No. And then throughout the years, I've accumulated 20, 30, 40, 50-year-olds, and it's still a lot of work, and I didn't give birth to them. So let's ask you. You're stuck there. You're stuck. Looks like you went into a dream, but it's the. Come on back, Cathey. Can you hear me? Your audio, your video. There you go. Can you hear me,
Oh, I'm back.
Cathey? Okay.
Yep,
Are you back? Well,
I've
you are.
accumulated a bunch of kids over the years.
Okay. So let's get to your fun question because it looks like the video wants
I'm
that.
here.
Your fun question is. This is good for you. Would you rather live for a week in the past or the future?
Ooh, yeah, I remember that. I was like, "Ooh, that's a really hard question because I would like to split that week up if I'm allowed to do whatever I
Nope.
want."
Nope. You do not get to change the
No,
question, people.
no, you just get to be creative with the answer. No, I mean, my knee jerk, of course, would say, that I would want to go back to the past. But then there's a piece of me that would also love to see the future because I'm a curious person. I don't like surprises. So I would love to just be able to zoom out. But I really am going to go to the past because I would love to go to the past and be able to take some of the knowledge that I have right now and be able to at least try it out for a week and see if what I'm saying is really valid and it's really true. Because if it is, why haven't we as a society, not as a person, why can't we learn big lessons from other people? And again, I'm only speaking for my experience, but I wish I would have been able to absorb and grab some of these lessons that I've learned along the way. But that's probably what I would do. I would go back and test it out, test my theory out.
Okay. Well, Miss Armillas, we've managed. We got to the end. The camera wanted to get a little static on us. I cannot thank you enough. I thank you for having me on your show. I thank you more for being on mine. I thank you for sharing your words of wisdom, your motherhood, your maturity, even as a young person. With those, there's someone out there that watched this show or will see this show on YouTube, by the way, when we're finished, that will capitalize on all of the love, all of the patience, all of the education that you gave your kids, and to know that you've helped produce 2 more kids that won't go into anybody's system. You know what I'm talking about. We won't be reading about them on the news. That's what we're trying not to do. And if we do, it's because they're getting an honorary award, a medal for doing something fabulous for society. I want to wish you a happy new year. And again, I can never thank you and all of the guests that come on here. The show was live on Facebook. Share it with your friends. We're now going to be on YouTube forever once this is over. I don't have my books in front of me, but I've been selling my books on Facebook through this whole Christmas season. Amazon, Cozyisms, The Art of Paying Attention, gives you my insights, my quips, my thinking process with beautiful art. Please go on there and get it. Please come back here next Tuesday. If God allowing, I'll be sitting here. And if technology doesn't bother us, we'll be back here at 2:00. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of my show, Cathey. And I appreciate you. And when you come back to town, hopefully, I'll be ready to play pickleball when I see you again.
You know it. Thank you, Cozy. This was amazing.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.